Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you one simple question. How much of your life have you wasted watching someone else live theirs? You scroll. You compare. You judge. You admire. And all the while your own story, it's on pause. We live in a world that makes it so easy to lose yourself watching others. But here's the truth. No one ever built a legacy by watching someone else's highlight reel. If you want to change your life, if you want to do something that matters, you must become obsessed with your own growth. That's why you need to stay till the end of this talk, because I will show you why your greatest breakthrough will only come the moment you stop watching and start working. You are the project, not them. That's the mindset shift that changes everything. Most people spend their lives watching others, what they're doing, what they're buying, what they're achieving. They track someone else's journey like it's their own scoreboard. But here's the truth. You cannot control their path, their timing, or their decisions. The only thing you can control is you, your thoughts, your actions, your growth. And yet, we give so much time and energy to everything outside of us and barely any to what's happening within us. Think about it. You set goals, and then you go online and see someone who already did what you want to do. Suddenly, your goal doesn't feel exciting. It feels late or small, or maybe even pointless. But that's not reality. That's a mental trap. You've started measuring your progress against a timeline that was never yours in the first place. And now, instead of being motivated, you're discouraged. You feel like you're behind. You feel like you're not good enough. And yet nothing in your life changed except your focus. That's the cost of distraction. When you focus on others, you forget the one person who actually needs your full attention. You are the one with the potential to grow. You are the one who can change your life. You are the one with the power to show up day after day and do the work. But that only happens when you finally decide to stop looking out and start looking in. Let me tell you something important. No one is coming to do the work for you. No one is going to hand you clarity or motivation or discipline. Those things are built through effort, through time, through patience. And they're built in silence. While others are talking, scrolling, posting, comparing, you build. You study. You sharpen. You keep moving forward. Because you know what they don't, you are the project. When you treat yourself like the most important investment in your life, everything changes. You stop wasting time. You start being intentional. You stop being envious. You start being inspired. You stop living on autopilot and begin to take ownership of every moment, every choice, every habit. That's where real transformation starts. Not when you finally catch up to someone else, but when you finally lock in on yourself. You want to be great? Then be great for you. Not to impress them. Not to prove them wrong. Not to catch up. But because you are worth building. Your peace, your power, your potential, they all live on the other side of self-focus. So stop wasting energy on what they're doing. Start spending it on who you are becoming. You are the project. Start treating yourself like one. Comparison is a thief, not a teacher. It doesn't inspire you. It steals your joy, your confidence, your clarity. We've been conditioned to believe that looking at others, measuring ourselves against their progress, their lifestyle, or their success will somehow help us improve. But more often than not, it does the opposite. Instead of lighting a fire under you, comparison makes you freeze. It makes you question your own path, your own value, your own timing. It's subtle. You start your day with energy, with focus, with a plan. Then you glance at someone else's life. Maybe it's a friend's promotion, a stranger's perfect vacation, or a competitor's win. Suddenly, your own progress feels small. Your excitement fades. Your motivation dies. You were proud of your pace until you saw someone else running faster. And now you're not focused on your next step. You're busy watching their stride. But here's what we never talk about. Comparison is rarely honest. You're comparing your whole reality to someone else's carefully curated moment. You're comparing your chapter 2 to their chapter 20. You don't know their backstory, their struggles, their sacrifices. All you see is the result, and you assume it came easier, faster, cleaner than it actually did. That's how comparison becomes dangerous. It disconnects you from your truth and hooks you into a false version of someone else's. You cannot grow from that place. You cannot evolve if your attention is constantly being pulled outward. When you're too busy watching someone else's garden, you forget to water your own. And the truth is, the only way to truly grow, the only way to truly improve is to focus on your own progress, not in comparison to others, but in alignment with who you were yesterday. Growth is personal. It's not measured by someone else's success. It's measured by how much you've pushed beyond your own limits. It's about your discipline, your mindset, your habits. It's about becoming a better version of you, not a second-rate version of them. That's the real journey. When you stop comparing, you free up energy to learn. You begin to ask better questions. What do I need to learn today? How can I grow in my purpose? What does success look like for me? That's when comparison transforms into clarity. You move from copying others to creating your own path. You stop chasing what's popular and start building what's authentic. So stop watching their progress like it's a scoreboard for your worth. It's not. You're not in a race against anyone. You're in a process of becoming. Your path is yours. Your timing is yours. And your growth, real lasting growth, will never come from comparison. It will come from commitment. It will come from focus. And it will come from the day you finally say, I'm done looking sideways. I'm looking forward now. Distraction is the enemy of execution. It doesn't come in loud with sirens or alarms. It comes quietly, dressed as curiosity. A quick glance at someone else's feed, a scroll through updates that don't concern you, a mental detour into someone else's progress, wondering how they're doing, what they've accomplished, what they're getting that you're not. And just like that, you've lost your rhythm. You've traded momentum for mental noise. It's easy to believe that watching others is harmless, that keeping up, staying in the loop, being aware it helps. But the truth is, it drains you. Every second you spend focused on someone else's life is a second stolen from building your own. Distraction doesn't just waste time. It fractures your attention. It weakens your drive. And worst of all, it convinces you that movement is progress. But watching isn't moving. Thinking isn't doing. Planning isn't execution. Real progress is built in silence through action, repetition, and unshakable focus. We live in a time where distraction is glorified. People say things like, I'm just researching, or I'm staying inspired, when what they're really doing is stalling. They're avoiding the uncomfortable parts of growth, the discipline, the uncertainty, the failure by staying occupied with the illusion of productivity. They watch tutorials they never use. They admire results they never chase. They consume information they never apply. Because watching is easier than doing. Comparing is easier than changing. But execution is hard. Execution requires sacrifice. It demands focus, consistency, and most of all, it requires you to stop looking at others and start believing in yourself. Every major achievement you see out there, every result you admire, came from someone who stopped watching and started working. They chose deep work over distractions. They chose action over approval. They knew that success isn't built in the spotlight, it's built in the dark. When no one's watching, when your mind is locked in and your hands are doing the work, that's where breakthroughs happen. Not in the crowd, not in the noise, but in the quiet hours of full focus. You don't need more time, you need less distraction. You don't need more inspiration, you need more execution. You don't need to be more like them, you need to be more of you without interruption, without second guessing, without comparison. Distraction will offer you comfort, entertainment, and temporary pleasure, but it will never offer you results. That only comes from execution. And execution requires discipline. It requires the ability to say, I don't need to know what they're doing. I need to finish what I started. If you want to go far, stop being a spectator and become a creator. Tune out the noise. Unplug from comparison and commit to the mission, your mission. Because in the end, focus isn't just a skill, it's your competitive edge. It's the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Everything you're chasing is on the other side of distraction. Let it go and execute. Self-mastery is the new superpower. Not fame, not followers, not connections, just the quiet, consistent control over your own thoughts, emotions, and actions. That's the real edge. In a world full of noise, where people are pulled in 100 directions, the person who can master themselves will always rise. Because while others react, you respond. While they chase approval, you stay aligned. While they burn out, you endure. That's not luck. That's not natural talent. That's self-mastery. It starts with awareness. Most people go through life on autopilot, reacting to emotions they never try to understand, making choices based on impulse, not intention. They don't pause. They don't reflect. They don't question why they do what they do. But when you start turning inward, when you begin to study your own patterns, your triggers, your habits, you take back the wheel. You stop being driven by default and start designing your life with clarity. Self-mastery is not about being perfect. It's not about being emotionless or rigid. It's about owning your emotions, not being owned by them. It's about choosing your response when things go wrong, when people doubt you, when failure hits harder than expected. Instead of breaking, you adjust. Instead of collapsing, you adapt. That ability to stay grounded when everything around you feels shaky, that's power. Discipline plays a massive role in this. You can have all the goals in the world, but if you can't manage your impulses, if you can't stick to your commitments, they mean nothing. Mastery isn't about what you do once. It's about what you do consistently when no one's watching. It's waking up when you said you would. It's finishing the task when you're tired. It's pushing forward when excuses feel easy. And you don't need motivation to do that. You need standards. Standards that are set not by trends, but by who you've decided to become. The most successful people aren't the loudest. They're not always the ones being celebrated. They're the ones behind the scenes, relentlessly focused on becoming stronger, smarter, more capable, because they understand that the world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you can handle. And if you want more, you have to become more. That's what self-mastery gives you, the ability to rise, to lead, to endure. Not because things are easy, but because you are trained for the difficult. It's tempting to keep watching others, hoping their path will somehow illuminate yours. But true power comes when you stop mimicking and start managing yourself. Your time, your mind, your energy. Because once you master that, you become unstoppable. You stop being thrown off course by small problems. You stop needing external motivation. You stop being a slave to the environment and instead you shape it. That's how leaders are built. Not in the spotlight, in silence, in struggle, in self-mastery. External validation is a mirage. It looks like the answer. It feels like success. It sounds like applause. But the moment you chase it, you lose control. You start shaping your life around the opinions of people who don't know your purpose, your struggle, or your story. You adjust your actions to fit their expectations. You silence your instincts to win their approval. And over time, without even realizing it, you stop living for yourself. This is how so many people end up burnt out, confused, or deeply unfulfilled because they built their lives around being liked, not being real. They achieve goals that look good from the outside but feel empty on the inside. They win applause from the crowd but lose connection with their own values. And the problem is, the more you feed off validation, the more addicted to it you become. You begin to depend on it. You need the compliments to feel confident. You need recognition to feel worthy. And the moment that recognition disappears, even for a second, you feel lost. But here's the truth: validation from others is temporary. It's unstable. It can be taken away at any moment. One opinion, one mistake, one shift in public mood, and it's gone. If your sense of worth is tied to that, you will always feel like you're on edge, constantly proving, constantly performing. That's not freedom. That's not peace. That's a prison. Real fulfillment doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment, from knowing that what you're doing, who you're becoming, and how you're living is true to who you are. It comes from quiet moments of progress, from choosing discipline over comfort, integrity over approval, and purpose over popularity. It's built when no one is watching, when there are no claps, no likes, no compliments, and you still show up for yourself. Not because someone is watching, but because you are. You don't need to be seen to be valuable. You don't need to be praised to be powerful. The most impactful growth often happens in the background, while others are too busy performing. When you stop needing validation, you start moving with clarity. You make decisions that serve your future, not your ego. You stop trying to prove and start trying to build something solid, something lasting, something that doesn't collapse just because people stop noticing. The world will always have something to say. But the real question is, can you be proud of yourself even when no one else is clapping? Can you keep going when there's no audience? Can you still believe in the work you're doing when it's misunderstood, seen, or even criticized? That's strength. That's freedom. That's power. When you focus on who you're becoming instead of who's watching, you stop performing and you start transforming. Because in the end, it's not about being approved by everyone, it's about being at peace with yourself. So here's the truth. The hard truth: your life will never change if your focus stays on them. Their wins, their timelines, their opinions, their applause, none of it is your responsibility. None of it will build your future. You were not put here to compete with others. You were put here to complete yourself. You want to grow? Then cut the noise. You want peace? Then stop seeking permission. You want power? Then stop waiting to be noticed. Everything you're chasing: success, clarity, confidence, fulfillment, it's not out there. It's in you. It's waiting behind every choice you make to focus on your own journey instead of being distracted by theirs. So stop scrolling. Stop comparing. Stop shrinking yourself to fit someone else's story. And start doing the one thing that changes everything: focus on yourself. Because once you do, you'll realize something incredible. You were never behind.